Welcome to the Boston Bros Political Podcast. I am Jim Campanini, co-host of the show with Boston Herald political columnist Peter Lucas. And Peter, a lot has gone on this past week. We're going into the first 100 days of Donald
100
Trump.
days.
Oh, man. Some people see this as an exciting time in American history.
More exciting than 40 days and 40 nights.
And yet other people have a Trump derangement syndrome where they're saying this is the worst, it's chaos, contempt. This guy is leading us to authoritarianism, a strong-arm government. And I'm saying, well, it's so glaring because we had such a weak president for 4 years who basically did nothing, let everything slide. Now here's Trump coming in and looking at everything, checking it, the Doge and government efficiency, and people are just stunned by how this government really operates. And Trump is trying to change it. I think he's trying to change too much, to tell you the truth.
Not only stunned, they're stunned by how much he's been able to do in 100 days.
Yeah. Doesn't this guy, the former President Joe Biden, he slept 22 hours a day.
And this guy never sleeps. But first, I have to admire your hat because, I'm an Italian wine, certified wine expert. And that is a beautiful lid, if I must say so. 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬. This hat is from Sicily, and it's part of a drive to make Sicily great again.
How did you get that hat?
Actually, the hat was given to me. My grandkids and my kids all went to Sicily for a week's vacation, and they had a hell of a time. And they brought me back the hat, and it only cost me $5,000.
Why is that?
Well, somebody had to pay for the trip.
Granddad, absolutely.
So here we go.
Make Granddad great again.
Yeah.
Sicily. Yeah. So I've been most regions in Italy, and Sicily still remains on our bucket list. The wine goddess, my wife Mary Lee, she wants to go. So hopefully we'll get there within the next 2 years. Have you been to Sicily?
I've been to southern Italy. I've not been to Sicily. I'd like to go to Sicily
The
too.
wines there from the Mount Etna area are exquisite. I've tasted a lot of them. I talk about a lot of them in my classes and stuff. So yeah, it's a great place to visit, and I guess I got to get there.
I always wanted to get down to Messina,
Yeah.
and the tip of southern Italy, which you can take the ferry, I guess, from Messina
right
to
across the street.
Sicily.
Yeah, straight to Messina and stuff. So it's beautiful. Okay, well that's good. Now, what about my hat? Do you like my hat?
What's that? Market basket special?
No, it's the Trump National.
Oh, okay.
Trump National Charlotte.
Oh.
My daughter lives outside of Charlotte. She's about 10 miles from Trump National Golf Course. She's gone there for a couple of times for with friends for brunch. She said it's a beautiful place, and she bought me this hat. And she wants me to go down there and play golf. I says, we're not in the income bracket to get into that golf course. She says, actually, Dad, we are. She says because she knows a couple of people who work there, and she says if you want to play, we can get you on the course. So. I don't know. There might be a trip in my future playing at Trump National Charlotte.
You may end up playing golf with the president.
I hope so. Well, I hope so. That'd be nice.
Particularly if he listens to this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we'll see. So a lot percolating at the State House over the budget and other things. What's someone on your list?
Well, we have a record budget, and it doesn't seem to matter if the president is cutting various programs in Massachusetts because the budget is getting a good looking over, and there doesn't seem any cuts in it.
No, they've Governor Healy filed a budget for almost $62 billion, I believe, and then the House filed their budget $400 million less. House Speaker Mariano said, "Well, we have to be a little cautious with the perceived and anticipated federal budget cuts, but those federal budget cuts that they're talking about, and I don't know where they're doing their math, amounts to about $15 billion comes into the state of Massachusetts that bills our $62 billion budget that Healy proposed. But yet they've only cut $400 million out. And then yesterday they filed a bunch of amendments in the House to add on $37 million. So by the time this budget is probably presented, they'll keep adding more and more to be back up to the same old thing.
Right.
Oh, who cares? You know, we'll take it when it comes.
You know, one of the problems, a major problem in Massachusetts, is we have a liberal delegation to Congress. There are 9 representatives and 2 senators, and none of them have any kind of a working relationship with the Trump administration. The governor has no one around to talk to Trump. That is amazing. A state like Massachusetts and has absolutely no relationship with the federal government, and which in the past has donated about $15-16 billion to Massachusetts annually, which soon may be cut. It is amazing.
Well, you know what gets me is Trump is willing to speak to anybody. He brings everybody into the lion's den. You know, even reporters who he knows that are going to be, are opposed to him. He talks to them, politicians. If someone just picks up the phone and calls, look at Bill Maher, right? He had him over. Now, we knew eventually he was going to turn on Trump. You know, he said nice things at the beginning about his stay. But it's his right, if he doesn't like Trump's policy, say that. But Trump even brought him in, had a gracious dinner at the White House. I mean, last night, Governor Whitmer, right?
Gretchen.
In Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. She was in the audience where Trump was holding this huge rally, okay? He invited her up on the stage. He didn't know what she was going to say. She could have attacked him.
No, and she was very gracious towards him. She had been a big critic of President Trump, and there she was on the stage. And granted that she was there because Trump has just approved keeping the base, a big military base in Michigan, open, and which benefits the economy there. And she spoke graciously. And it showed to me, I said to myself, why can't we have anyone from Massachusetts to have a relationship with Trump? If he can talk to her and she can talk to him, why can't Governor Healy talk to the president
Exactly.
and do something to save the Cape Cod bridges? And instead of proposing to have tolls on the Cape Cod bridges, but we've got nobody to talk to the president.
But this is, I mean, when are the people in Massachusetts going to wake up? And even people in the Democrat Party, I mean, make the phone call. Someone should make the phone call, but it seems like they just want to be on the outs with Trump. They think it's a winning political strategy when the citizens and residents of Massachusetts, from nursing homes to kids being educated in schools, are going to be the losers because these people can't see beyond the fence.
There were no more bigger political antagonists than President Ronald Reagan and House Speaker Tip O'Neill. However, when it came to issues concerning Massachusetts, they could get along. Tip O'Neill had a relationship with the president, President Reagan, even though he was a major critic. They could work together on beneficial issues. We don't have that in Massachusetts anymore. We don't have anybody to be able to pick up the phone and set up an appointment with the president.
I mean, are our politicians so fearful that their progressive base,
Yes.
just by reaching out, we'll call them traitors? And it was interesting that I read a report. This new person who was just put as the Democratic National Committee, the chair of it, a young guy. He came out and said the party isn't progressive enough, and he's actually he came out publicly and said that they'll primary incumbents who don't go more to the left. Now, just to say that publicly to all these incumbents in Congress and stuff, I mean, this Democrat Party is turning dysfunctional. They're turning on each other.
That's David Hogg.
David Hogg,
He's vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee. And he's the one who's proposing running candidates against Democratic incumbents who are not woke enough.
Yeah.
And maybe old, or both.
I mean, Democrats should stand up for themselves and say, "Hey, wait a minute! I work hard for my district, and you're not going to tell me what to do and say." But it seems they all are in lockstep. It's very, very unfortunate what's happening. It's either one side or the other side, and no one's meeting in the middle. And that middle is just being crushed and evaporated. And the people are losing all across the country.
They are so afraid of the extreme left. This is a situation where the tail is wagging the dog.
Yeah.
And they're all scared stiff. They might be primaried by a leftist. So they all turn to the left.
Yeah. And, I saw this story this week about speaking about our Senator Markey. Here's the headline in the Boston Herald: Mass delegation slammed for trip to Louisiana ICE Center. Senator Markey led a delegation. Representative Ayanna Presley was there with Jim McGovern. They went down there. The Turkish student.
Ozturk is their name.
Yes, Ozturk, but it's I'm trying to pronounce it. Ramesa Ozturk. Okay, they're saying her human rights have been violated by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. She was, they claim, illegally. She wasn't arrested, but taken off the street. She's a student in Massachusetts. Was she Tufts?
Tufts University.
Tufts University, and ICE removed her from the state. And sent her right to the Louisiana detention center. And now, there might have been some unreasonable actions there by ICE, because she had written an op-ed, that criticized. Well, she was pro-Palestinian op-ed, and I believe it was the Tufts student newspaper.
Tufts Daily, yeah.
Okay, but other than that, she had no record. Okay, no arrest record. Now we don't know. She did attend the funeral of a Palestinian terrorist. Okay, and she went overseas and attended it. So she obviously knows some people in the Palestinian organization, maybe Hamas. I don't know if that's reason enough to detain someone, but she was detained, and they're looking into it. Both the Trump administration, the Justice Department and stuff, and their channels that they are following. Okay, but here's Markey expending capital with McGovern and Presley, going down there for this one student and bringing it to the top. I really don't think most people care, okay, or concerned about it. They probably feel that, hey, this is going to work itself out there in the courts, but you see all the lawn signs that the Trump administration put up on the front lawn of the White House about all these illegal immigrant terrorists, murderers, rapists, serial killers. They extend all the way down. Very little press coverage about that. I would like to see some newspapers put every one of these people who have been deported and their charges and stuff. America is safer because of it.
Well, I'm one of probably a few reporters who read that op-ed piece that she wrote for the Tufts Daily newspaper, and believe me, it's almost unreadable. And I was surprised that alone would get her in trouble, because I thought it was nothing less than what you read in the Globe every day, pro-Hamas, anti-Israel type of thing. But apparently they use that as a premise to scoop her up. Perhaps there's more to the situation that we don't know about. I don't know. But whatever trouble she's in, she would be in worse trouble if she were in Turkey, her own country,
Yeah, yeah.
saying the same thing.
But you wrote a column about that and about her op-ed.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, in the Herald and stuff. And if you want to go up and look at it, when did that?
This ran on Monday.
Monday, okay, and the Boston Herald on Monday, and you could read all about it. Go on their archives, their website and stuff. But what gets me is going back to the point that we made. You know, the Democrats are turning this into cause celeb, and they're infuriating the Homeland Security, ICE, because now they acknowledge, and even the Trump Justice Department, they're looking into is going through this. She is well taken care of in this detention center, and you would think, wouldn't it be better if Senator Markey, picked up the phone, quietly called the president, and said, "Hey, gee, you know, can you look into this? We think this person was detained, and probably, you know, there's no reason for that, and blah blah blah, and look into this." Rather than, you know, this sledgehammer approach for one person out of the thousands who have been detained, and a lot of them deported, and rightfully so. But no, so they're doing this and just making it worse, I think, for this woman.
Well,
Okay, I really do.
first of all, Eddie Markey couldn't call the White House. They probably wouldn't even take his call. Number two, he was out for a headline, let's face it, not out to fix any situation. Were he concerned with her, he would have done what you suggested he do. Pick up the phone, quietly work around the scene, avoid a headline, avoid the media, and try and ameliorate the situation. And it's not unthinkable that he could have done something. After all, this is an administration, although it doesn't get any credit, has brought home scores of Americans who have been held against their will on bogus charges in Russia and Venezuela, in various countries. And Trump knows how to operate. Apparently, none of our members of the Congress know how to do so either.
It's even more glaring, okay, that, you know, everything was well during a Biden administration when, you know, the Democrats were in control and they could call and get anything they wanted and stuff like that. But they don't know anybody in the Republican administration. They have no contacts. You know, it's amazing how when the Republicans were out of power, I mean, they could call the White House, ask for meetings, and receive them.
Right.
You know, now maybe they didn't get what they wanted, but at least they talked face to face and had conversations. But this doesn't seem to be. No one wants a dialogue. I'm just
But if I were an advisor to the governor, I would say, Governor, why don't you call the White House and set up a meeting and to deal with the Cape Cod bridges? There's $4 billion at stake. That's what's going to cost to replace the two Cape Cod bridges, the Sagamore and the Bourne. Both are in need of desperate replacement. What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose?
Well, I just think that the Governor Healy, Maura Healy, is just digging her heels in deeper and deeper into the resistance against Trump. I mean, last night she was on a live virtual town hall meeting with two other governors. Well, actually, there were three. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Count me out.
Yeah, I know. And they discussed President Trump's first 100 days. And Healy, you know, was the most aggressive on the stage, saying that Democrats have to keep digging in, like, you know, more lawsuits and keep fighting. You know,
How does that help Massachusetts?
well, but this is my point. Even the other two, you know, were little, you know, yes, they were against Trump, but Waltz was way out there. He was wacky what he said about it. But Hochul and Pritzker, I mean, Hochul, New York City couldn't survive without federal funding, and I think she's come to realize that, even though she's had her issues with Trump. She's had conversations with Trump. over the traffic congestion tax and stuff like that. But at least she has a dialogue, and even Pritzker was a little more neutral and focused. Yeah, he doesn't like Trump policies and stuff, but filing all these lawsuits, burning all this legal capital and stuff, and where is it going to lead to? Okay, the Democrats even talking about impeaching Trump again.
Right.
I mean, it didn't work the first time. When are they going to wake up?
Well, they're going to have to wake up soon because it's not going to get any better because Trump increasingly is going to ignore states like Massachusetts.
Is Governor Healy ambitious enough to try to make a national run for the president?
I think she could be a national figure. She could possibly be the first lesbian to be nominated to vice president or president. I mean, let's face it, the Democrats have no bench. The nomination in 2028 is wide open. That's why you see so many characters out there trying to run for president. And they are characters, believe me.
Yeah.
There's hardly anyone with any substance. So the thing is wide open.
Well, you look at the history of the Democrat Party, it all comes down to, the Democrats, if they're going to be progressive, latching on to that one candidate and pushing them through. Look, Biden, he should have dropped out of the race early. They should have had a primary, okay? But it seems like even Democrats are against elections within their own party. They're talking about Trump being authoritarian in his stance, but the Democrats, they subverted democracy in the way they nominated Kamala Harris. Okay, they disregarded the process, to hold primaries to find a candidate, even exclude. I mean, well, even 4 years before that, look what they did to Bernie Sanders. I mean, shut him out. Okay, so it's just amazing how. The press, disregards all the flaws and foibles in the Democrat Party, but they're quick to lean on, the Republican Party when it does something that actually satisfies their constituency. So
what the Democratic Party needs is a leader like Donald Trump. They need a Democrat. No, really, they need a Democrat Donald Trump to keep everybody in line, and instead of this craziness that's going on right now.
Do you see anybody out there that
No. No.
I don't know. Well, I just got to talk about this one story that I found buried deep in the press, and I didn't find this in the Boston Globe. Maybe it was written. Maybe they put it in a simple paragraph. But I thought this was interesting. I found this online. The headline is "Tariff Boosts U.S. Government Revenue." So it starts off in April 2025. The United States witnessed a historic surge in customs revenue, largely attributed to the tariff policies introduced by former President Donald Trump. These policies, part of his America First strategy, led to a remarkable increase in revenue, surpassing $15.4 billion. This figure represents a significant rise of $6 billion compared to March, marking a monthly growth of over 60%. Now, this was just the start of it. This is the first month of it, okay? And, a lot. It says it attributes a lot of them to the steel imports, which were raised 25%, and 10% on most other products, which started April 2nd. So, this money is going to the federal, federal treasury. Okay. Now, it's not going to wipe out our $37 trillion national debt, but it's a start to equalize an unbalanced and unfair trade policy with the U.S. and all other countries in the world. Okay. Now, if it's true, All right. The administration is saying that at least 70 countries have contacted the White House, and they are in active negotiations with most of them.
Right.
Do you believe that?
Oh, sure.
You do? Okay. Because some Republicans are getting antsy and in Congress saying, hey, Trump's got to come out with some wins. But and the White House is saying, hey, as we wrap up these trade negotiations, we'll be disclosing these new agreements.
If the Democrats were wise, they would propose that let us wait to see if this works out. If it doesn't work out, fine. We can dump all over Donald Trump. But if it does work out, it's probably good for the country. And after all, aren't we all Americans? Don't we all want America to succeed in the world? I think the question answers itself.
And I said this before, the lack of patience in America. The president might have made the unfortunate comment that, the first day he was going to change everything and give you the impression that overnight everything is going to be solved. Well, we know it doesn't work that way. And these negotiations are difficult at times. And that's what's going on now. But if you believe that these negotiations are taking place, I mean, it's going to be worthwhile for the United States, for the workers in the United States, the employers in the United States, okay, and the U.S. Treasury. So I think we have to keep our faith and stay strong and say, hey, hopefully this will be resolved. But it's funny that the exports from China have dropped. That was a new story that was out in the Wall Street Journal. Of course, you can look at it both ways. Some people on the left are saying, well, the shelves in stores are going to be empty.
I haven't seen that.
Well, not yet. And then other people are saying, hey, well, you know what? Buy American.
They're always talking about future gloom and doom, and they're not talking about the present.
Yeah.
The shelves are not empty. Shelves are full. And they always say, well, in the future, there's not going to be any toys for Christmas. I mean, come on.
We'll find a way to get those toys there or whatever. And the prices might go a little higher. If you're willing to buy it, that's what capitalism's all about. You want to spend more for it. But I would think most people would really scrutinize their purchases. China is not our friend, okay? They're a world enemy, not just the United States. They've threatened Taiwan, other countries. They tried to take over Africa, even making inroads in Latin America. And shame on prior U.S. administrations for allowing that to happen. Donald Trump is standing up for the hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere, and he's also negotiating with a lot of these African countries and trying to revive American foreign policy, which I find nothing wrong with that. I mean, and yet he's getting criticized almost every day.
We're just not used to having a leader. It's been years and years since this country had a leader, and finally you have one. And people are so astonished. They're not used to it, and particularly the Democrats.
So, Peter, the first 100 days, the good and the bad, the Trump administration. What do you got?
Well, I think the spirit of the people has been risen. And I think people are happier. They seem more content. They have a man in charge who seems to know what he's doing. And he's there every day on your television, morning, noon, and night. You see him. He tells you what he's going to do, and then he does it. And we've just come off 4 years of a president who couldn't talk, couldn't walk, hardly ever saw him, wouldn't take any questions. And so I think this has been positive and refreshing and good for the country and good for the world, by the way.
Well, I mean, the number one win has been immigration. Illegal immigration has been all but stopped. Okay, it's down to a trickle, and he promised that. And now, a lot of these gangbangers, the worst of the worst, are being deported. Okay, what's the uproar? I mean, they're talking about due process. They were in this country illegally. Check them off, get them out, especially these convicts who were wanted in their own countries, and so that's been a big win. I think the economy, there's been some ebbs and flows. Inflation has been coming down, and now I think the latest they're saying, the doomsayers are saying it's going to rise because of the tariffs. But you know what? We'll work our way through this.
Well, the immigration and the border security issue has been so great. They even arrested the illegal immigrant who stole Kristi Noem's purse the
it was
other day.
unbelievable. Yeah. You can't make these stories up.
No, she was at the restaurant with her family, extended family, and this illegal immigrant, apparently from Chile, allegedly grabbed her purse and went off with it. And in it, she had $3,000 and a credit card, a passport, or security badge, and so on and so forth. But they tracked him down, and he was arrested, and he's in custody right now. And let me tell you, this is one illegal immigrant criminal who's not going to sneak out the back door of the courthouse.
Oh, man. Well, okay. So you just gave me the segue into...
That's my job. That's my job.
Judge Duggan, right? Is it Dugan? Duggan? Yeah. And... so,
I think it's Dugan, D-U-G-A-N.
yeah.
Hannah Dugan.
Yeah, Hannah Dugan. That's her name. And yesterday, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, they relieved her of her duties. Now she's the judge who had an illegal immigrant,
A violent illegal immigrant.
before her. He was there for 3 misdemeanor charges that involved, fighting. But he was arrested. But he had been previously deported from the United States for illegal activities and more violent charges. And they don't know how he got back into the country. There was no record of him. So he
snuck in.
He snuck in, and ICE was there at the courthouse, and she found out about it. She actually went out into the corridor, stopped the proceeding, went out into the corridor to talk to the ICE people.
Argued with them.
But then told them, they presented a warrant to her, and she says, you got to take this to the Chief Justice down the hall. And while they were diverted to the Chief Justice, she told the attorney for this in his client to follow him and go through the jury room.
She walked them out.
She walked them out
to the back door.
And the only people go through this door are the jury and the court officers, the police officers. And so she walked them out, and he was allowed to escape. The ICE people, when they found out they were duped, they ran the guy down on the sidewalk. He was running away.
Which could have been a potential disaster.
Yeah.
Someone could have been killed.
I mean, the talk about derangement, the judge, doing something like this. Well, you know what? It was obviously what she did was unlawful, illegal, un-American.
But there's precedent. She had precedent for that. All she had to do was pay attention to Massachusetts, which in another first had Judge
Joseph,
Shelley Joseph, the Newton District Court in 2018, also allowed a wanted illegal immigrant out the back door while ICE agents were waiting out in the front.
And that case still hasn't been resolved, right?
Well, charges were filed against her by the U.S. attorney at that time, Andrew Lelling, who was a Trump appointee. And then we had an election, and Joe Biden got elected. Andrew Lelling was replaced, and then a U.S. attorney appointed by the Biden Justice Department reviewed the case, quote, and dropped the charges. So
Yeah, but she is now being.
she was reinstated to the court. She had been suspended. She was reinstated. Now, however,
Yes, is it the judicial the state Supreme Court or
it's a
the
good
bar some bar association? Judicial Commission is investigating.
there's a hearing on her in next month in June
yes,
by the Judicial Conduct Committee. Whatever it is.
That's it, the Judicial Conduct Committee, and they're looking. She'll probably end up getting a slap on the wrist. But what Judge Dugan did is actually even just as bad, if not worse. And she could have just followed through on the proceeding, and then like Pontius Pilate, she's done, okay? And then ICE has every right. Federal agents there on federal charges with a warrant. It wasn't like they just grabbed them off the street. They had all the paperwork and everything.
Look, when they were
the guy had been deported 10 years previously.
When they were after Trump, after he left the White House, Democrats were famous for saying no one is above the law.
Yeah.
No one is above the law.
Yeah.
And now in this case here, no one is above the law unless you're a Democrat judge listening to a case involving an illegal immigrant and you can let him out the door. So no one is above the law except sometimes.
Well, you know what? If I was a judge, I mean,
You'd be a good
actions
judge.
like this. Well, actions like this just diminish the people's confidence in the judicial system.
right.
Okay, and you wonder, how do these people get appointed or elected to these judgeships? Because in both cases here, it's in the Constitution. Okay, federal outstrips state rights, okay? And we had a civil war. 500,000 people were either killed or wounded over a lot of this, okay? Certainly slavery was the big issue. But it's been resolved. We have a constitution, and some of these liberals and progressives, they like to point their finger at the Constitution, but it's only when it's in their favor, and in this situation, there should have been collaboration and cooperation. The ICE agents, okay, they had their paperwork, they had everything in order, and yet for a judge to first divert and then direct the illegal client, convict,
Backdoor justice. Backdoor justice.
Just tell. Well, I hope Wisconsin is one of the most progressive states. So credit to them and their Supreme Judicial Court to question Dugan and to relieve her of her duties while they look into this.
This is another case of the Democratic Party taking the side of a criminal illegal immigrant as opposed to the victims. The victims in this case were sitting in the court, in her court, when she did this, in front of them. So what do you think they think of the judicial system in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or in the U.S.,
No, it was. It's just amazing. When people see this this stuff, and if you're a middle of the road and you read it, you just say, "This is outrageous." Okay, it's just simply outrageous that a local district court, state court, is on the opposite side or fighting the federal officers who are there to uphold the law and bring safety and security to neighborhoods all across the country. I just don't understand it. So hopefully that will be resolved. But it's another instance. You think these judges will smarten up, Peter? But
well, they think they can get away with it. Apparently, they have in the past. I don't think it's true any longer.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, moving on. There's been a talk about a lot of federal funding cuts, and of course, the media has been targeted, especially the public broadcasting service and its affiliates and stuff. So your newspaper, the Boston Herald, you got to be proud of that newspaper. I mean, it punches above its weight.
Yes, it
your
does.
columns, they've got far fewer reporters than the more liberal Boston Globe, and yet it's amazing how they come up with these good punch you in the gut stories where the Globe is writing this arrogant, entitled stuff, and it's just one way most of the time. You wouldn't wake up in the morning if you had that steady the fear headlines that come out in the Boston Globe, basically aimed at the Trump administration. But this was another outrageous story. Great reporting by Lance Reynolds of the Boston Herald. He wrote a story about the top executives at GBH, PBS, and NPR. All of these agencies get federal funding. Well, most of their existence is based on federal funding, and then they get a lot of donations. Now, disclaimer, I subscribe to PBS. I pay for it. Streaming service. I do like some of their programs, especially their productions, the British productions, Masterpiece Theatre. Okay, I very rarely watch
closet liberal. A closet liberal we got here.
I very rarely watch their news shows because I find them exhaustingly biased. Okay, exhaustingly biased. Okay, me being a former editor, I would like the other side once in a while to be framed in the context of any stuff, but it seems like that's not their mission anymore. So they're facing budget cuts where they're saying they're going to have to lay off all these, the people, the cameramen, some reporters and stuff. But it's amazing how these administrators survive. So Lance Reynolds shows that 9 top executives, 3 each from Boston's GBH, PBS, and NPR, okay, pulled down $4.6 million in salaries. Okay, the top guy at Boston's GBH, Jonathan Abbott, president and CEO, $847,000.
Worth every penny.
Oh, a nonprofit government subsidized station. Okay, producer Rainey Aronson, $540,000. Your friend and buddy Jim Browdy, a former Globe columnist, $506,000. Okay, he's since taken a pay cut.
Yeah.
They took one responsibility away from when they canceled one of his political show. He wrote in and told Lance Reynolds that he's only making like $360,000.
How do you survive?
He's making $344,000 now because the Greater Boston show is no longer being produced.
Is he the one telling us the shelves are empty under Donald Trump?
Yeah. And the PBS president, Patricia Harrison, $523,000. The CFO, William Tayman, $488,000. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's amazing. And I can't blame the Trump administration for looking into how public monies are being expended and where it's going to. Well, you know what? The rich are getting richer, all right, in a lot of these things. And you would think that money would be filtering down. Do you need all those executives, administrators to run these?
The rich always get richer. It doesn't matter.
Man. And so good reporting from the Boston Herald and Lance Reynolds. The headline is, outlets brace for Trump funding cuts. Oh, so now they're getting nervous because they're actually being scrutinized and looked at, when maybe the Biden administration, who's getting all the favoritism from these organizations, should have been looking at it and saying, hey, how can we better spend American tax dollars? So you know what? I will still subscribe to PBS because I like some of those British shows.
You're a glutton for punishment. A glutton for punishment.
But you know what? I look at it this way. I have an option, but I want the best I can get for my buck. Okay. All right? And I don't want to go into all these high salaries. So anyway, What else is going on? Anything
Well, we
else?
got the Kentucky Derby coming up this Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll tell you, one of the horses I'm going to place a bet on is Journalism.
Yes.
That's the name of the horse.
Yes, and he's the favorite in the race.
Well, he's the favorite. Journalism is not the favorite among the public people these days because journalism has big problems. But I think if Journalism can win, it'll help the morale
But
of journalists across the country who have been taking a beating, a deserved beating, but nevertheless taking a beating.
Now, another horse who's a long shot in that race is Publisher. Now, what a hunch bet that is.
Well, you'd be closer to a publisher to me. At least you were an editor of a newspaper.
So you play an exacta, Journalism and Publisher. Now, wouldn't it be something if Publisher wins the race, the long shot, and Journalism comes second? Because you've got a lot of newspapers where the reporters have revolted, the LA Times and the Washington Post, against their publisher for trying to be a little more balanced in their reporting. The LA Times, which was, talk about a liberal lion, they got all kinds of upset when the owner and publisher, revamped the newspaper and said, change their editorial policy. And it was Jeff Bezos down at the Washington Post, right?
That's right. That's right.
Who told them that they weren't going to be endorsing Kamala Harris and making any endorsement for president.
Well, the horse I'm going to place a bet on is a long shot and called Citizen Bull. Okay. Now, I've been a reporter for a long time, a political reporter, and I've dealt with a lot of bull from politicians. And if you want me to name all the Citizen Bull politicians I've covered, well, we'd need another show for that.
So now, if you want to take the Peter's bet a little further, you can bet a trifecta. A $1 trifecta box will cost you $6. A Journalism, Publisher, and Citizen Bull, and you'll have every combination for $6, a $1 bet. I bet you that would be a pretty good return if that comes in. But that's a good bet.
In fact, I may just put it all on Citizen Bull.
Yeah, and go for the stars. Shoot for the stars.
And I'd have in mind Eddie Markey, Elizabeth Warren, Michelle Wu, Governor Healy, Attorney General Andrew Campbell. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Talk about bull, huh?
Yeah, you could go for there. So I will take those three horses and pull them in some exotic bets and stuff. And for the more serious-minded, I think Journalism is an outstanding horse. He's got a great post position 8. This is not a horse racing show, but he should be forwardly placed in good position. He could win that horse. But me being a contrarian, I'm going to go with Grande, okay, who's listed now at 20-1. And I'm also going to go Sandman. It would have been better if it was sandbagged, because I think prior to Donald Trump's administration, the American people were sandbagged with the Biden administration. But I'm going to go with Sandman and play those combinations and see what happens. But I should watch the race. It'd be great. It's on Saturday at Churchill Downs, Peter. So anything else, Peter?
No, but since we're talking about journalism, I just want to make a point that Donald Trump has probably done more to improve the state of journalism in this country than anybody else. Because his criticism of the media, the way they've covered him over the years, has been right on. And it's taught reporters a lesson. Stick to the facts, stick to the news, keep your public opinion to yourself. And if you report the news straight, that benefits everybody. So, and I think that's a lesson that Donald Trump has given to the media.
Well, and I just got to mention one more thing. Last night, ABC reporter Terry Moran was invited into the White House to talk to Trump about his first 100 days. And I think Trump even admits he handpicked the reporter. He said, I picked you because I don't even know you. He said, so I don't know where you stand and everything, but go ahead and ask me questions. And right off the bat, Moran challenged the president about the MS-13 tattoos that were on deported illegal immigrant 𝐂𝐚𝐬 𝐁𝐫𝐴Z𝐬, who has been deported. This guy had a history of violence, okay? He had been previously deported, snuck back into the United States, okay? He was sent down to Louisiana, then shipped out to El Salvador. The Democrats have made him a cause celeb. Now, you're a reporter. You got your first question, or you got an opportunity of a lifetime, and you're asking him about the MS-13 tattoos that were on the hand of this Garcia. And you know what Moran's point was? Because later he said that when the Trump administration or Justice Department put the photos of the tattoos, online on their website, ABC and Moran said they were photoshopped.
They were wrong.
And they were wrong.
The report,
but to go out there and even put that in the American mind, you see, this is how the press now is operating. It's like someone calls me up on the phone, and says, you're running for office, Jim Campanini. Is it true that you beat your wife? And you say, no. Well, even a denial becomes a story. He denied today that he beat his wife.
It's gotcha. It's
gotcha journalism.
Journalism.
And Trump looks at him and says, hey, he says, and Trump gives the guy the history of this Garcia right on the
he handled it beautifully.
Oh, he destroyed Moran in his arguments line of question. Started telling him, he says, wait a minute. He says, those are on his hands. And it says MS-13 right on their symbols.
It was journalism bull.
Yeah. And Moran is stunned that the president knew everything, all the facts, and he thought he was going to hijack Trump, or at least put him in a corner. I mean, the guy's been doing this for years and stuff. But Terry Moran, boo on you. You had a chance and opportunity. There were so many questions you could have asked the guy about the first 100 days. When are we going to get a resolution to the wars that you promised? You want to ask him a tough question? When are we going to start seeing some of these agreements on tariffs? And who are the best chances that we have to coming to the table and talk about this? Do you think that the Americans are still 100% beside you on some of the economic things that you're doing?
Yeah, slow down.
But I mean, well, me being an editor, this is what I would tell my reporters: get into the crux of the thing, but no, he asked us, but he started a question with a falsehood, a known falsehood. The president of the United States. You think he would have done that to Joe Biden?
No.
You think he would have done that to Barack Obama?
No.
I mean, this is outrageous. It's outrageous.
Oh, that's how bad it's gotten. But Trump is teaching them a lesson. That's why I think, in the final analysis, Trump is the best thing that's happened to journalism in America today.
Yeah. So Trump, Trump told him right out and explained it. And I hope ABC TV keeps that on in the tape. Okay. But they probably won't. It'll be edited out, just like CBS edited Kamala Harris's interview before the election, which the Trump administration is suing CBS and its affiliates. And CBS, Sherry Redstone, who's the leader and owner of that, is in negotiations now because it could be a devastating settlement in regards to that thing. CBS was wrong. They didn't own up to it. Although they did lose an editor this past week that everybody's sticking up for, who's behind it all.
Well, let's see if they edited the Bill Belichick interview with his girlfriend.
Another segue.
Jordan.
Yeah. Well, you can take this away while I calm down. What happened with Bill Belichick? What do you think about that? Is he losing his mind?
Well, he's trying to sell a book, and he's got his companion or girlfriend with him. And she's 24. He's 74. It's only 50 years difference. So good luck to him. But she's a constant companion, and she interrupted a couple of times during his interview, on his network interview, and it didn't go too well. But, who am I to judge? 74-24. Good luck to him.
Well, is it fair to now all these sportscasters coming out of the woodwork saying that Bill has lost control? If she's running the North Carolina football program.
Look, the media covered up for Bill Belichick the same way it covered up for Joe Biden.
Yeah, so it's
And without Tom Brady, there wouldn't have been a Bill Belichick.
yeah. Well, I've always been a Bill Belichick's fan. Hey, I hope he's happy. I hope, it's not Jordan. I keep pronouncing her name Jordan Hudson. It's Jordan.
Oh, pardon.
So I don't know what that's all about, but God bless them. I hope they're happy. But he better have a good year at North Carolina. That's all I can say.
And all I can say is, go Citizen Bull.
Yeah, right. Well, on that, we're going to end it until next week. We've covered a lot of ground here. Peter likes Citizen Bull. I'm going with Sandman Grande, but I'm going to include journalism and publisher. And until next week, keep the faith. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. That's a Musk sign. Is that a Musk sign?